Hey guys, it's LaMena. Welcome back to Science from My Sofa. Still on the same sofa, still stuck inside because we are still in COVID-19. I'm not going anywhere. Staying right here. While the spread of COVID-19 seems to be getting better in my state, it is also getting dramatically worse everywhere else. I'm not going out. On this theme, today we're talking about plagues. Usually when we hear the word plague, we mean big, bad, scary, communicable disease. That's pretty much what it means. Typically that word plague refers to the Great Plague, the Big Baddie, the Black Plague, 1300s style. Starting around 1347, the Black Plague killed somewhere between 75 and 200 million people, depending on who you ask, although there's no one left to ask. I mean, not just because they died a long time ago, but because the plague killed like a lot of people. You'll hear the Great Plague often referred to as the bubonic plague, or sometimes the pneumonic plague, or sometimes the septicemic plague. They're actually all the same thing. It's the same bacteria, Yersinia pestis. It hits your lymph nodes, you have the bubonic plague. Your lungs, pneumonic, and your blood, septicemic. Either way, you're not having a really great day. At the very least, you're not having very many more. Nowadays, we talk about these things in terms of epidemics and pandemics. That word epidemic comes from Greek, epi meaning on or at or around or on top of, and demic meaning the same kind of word that we get democracy from, the people. So when you're talking about an epidemic, it is something that is affecting a group of people. So epidemics tend to be bad, scary, spreading diseases that are hitting like a whole area. Pandemics are the same thing, but bigger. Pan means all, meaning like everybody's in danger here. COVID-19 is a pandemic. Go us. I like learning about plagues, not because I really particularly like plagues, but because I like biology and gross stuff. It's kind of a thing with me. But also, plagues tend to teach us about ourselves as a society. A lot of plagues of the past have actually resulted in real huge benefits to society. From the Black Death, we got quarantine. The word comes from a Venetian term, quarantena, meaning 40 days. This was the practice of isolating incoming ships offshore for 40 days to protect against plague. By the end of the quarantine period, it would be clear that either the sailors were fine or they were dead. We still use this term for any disease isolation, including the 14 days required for people exposed to COVID-19. The Black Plague also brought us those sweet, sweet plague doctor costumes, used to limit doctors' exposures. This was an early form of personal protective equipment, or PPE, kind of like what hospital workers wear now, only nothing at all like that. Let's talk about smallpox. Smallpox is a very deadly disease that causes fever and these small pus-filled blisters all over the body. It can lead to disfigurement, blindness, and in about 30% of people, death. The benefit we got from smallpox actually has to do with vaccination. Variolation was a practice using pus from people's smallpox sores and injecting it into somebody who has never had the disease. That person would actually get a milder form of smallpox and be much more likely to survive and then become immune to smallpox in the future. Awesome. Not awesome was having to inject somebody with smallpox. Just feels like a bad idea. In 1796, a doctor, Edward Jenner in England, used a very similar disease, cowpox, to confer immunity to smallpox. He did the same kind of variolation, the same kind of inoculation, but using cowpox, it was a vaccination. Vacca meaning cow. People would get a mild case of cowpox and then become immune to smallpox. Those two diseases are actually so similar that your immune system is much more likely to believe that they're the same thing. So once you've had it the first time, you're able to mount a better immune response the second time and not likely to die. Go team. Edward Jenner was not the first doctor to do this, but he was the one to popularize it, showing that you can get your name in the history books with someone else's idea and really good PR. The next disease I want to talk to you guys about, and I'm sorry in advance, is cholera. Cholera is a severe gastrointestinal disease. It affects the small intestine and causes really, really bad diarrhea. Not like the kind you got from Aunt Edna's undercooked turkey at Thanksgiving. I mean the bad, bad kind. Cholera can cause 3 to 5 gallons of diarrhea per day. Now, if you think of the total volume of fluid in a human, you realize that somebody with cholera not likely to last that long. Research that happened during an 1854 outbreak in London, England, led to the understanding that cholera was being passed through the water supply. So sewage was going into the waterways, and then some of that same water was getting into the drinking supply. It's exactly as disgusting as it sounds. This was important for a couple of reasons. First of all, it underscored the idea of germ theory, which was kind of a relatively new idea at the time, which is that some sort of pathogen had to get into a body to make them sick. Previously, people believed in the miasma theory, which is that bad airs were somehow responsible for disease. Once we understood that it was a pathogen and moving through the water, people took steps to stop it. Now, because of that, we have better wastewater treatment, we have much more sanitary drinking water, and we have better hygiene practices, all of which are good and stop people from dying in hideously painful, really, really gross ways. Pandemics did not just give us delicious, clean drinking water, they also gave us the very delicious ice cream cone. In the 1800s, single servings of ice cream were often given in a small little glass piece called a penny lick. It was like a little glass with a shallow depression in it, which would hold a small scoop of ice cream. Unfortunately, not a lot of them were very clean before being reused. Remember, at the time, people thought diseases came from bad air, not unwashed glassware. Concerns over cholera and tuberculosis in the 1890s led to the penny lick being outlawed in London, England. In 1896, Italo Marchionni in New York City decided to make an edible version of the penny lick using pastry. And that's how we got the ice cream cone, which is still how we enjoy most of our single-serve things today, unless you're one of those monsters who choose to get it in a cup. Why? Cones are so delicious. There's waffle cones. There's like cones that are dipped in things and then you put the ice cream in. As for COVID-19, I have no idea how this is going to benefit us. Maybe this is what we need to get real equality in healthcare or in housing or in food security. Maybe we just really, really like masks and realize how sexy and awesome we all look wearing our protective gear. I think maybe we can use this to move forward. But until then, I'm not leaving the house. Bye.